Sunshine.
Revenge fantasies.
I know you didn't have much of that over the weekend because you told me it was raining as you drove to the beach.
Rain like crazy. Rain like crazy in D.C. Couldn't play golf in D.C. or Delaware. You know.
Play here.
I had nothing to do. Yeah, I know.
Sunshine here.
I had nothing to do. That's a long drive for me. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Bruins are out. Jimmy Butler and Joel Embiid are injured, and the NFL draft is in the books. But we begin today with yesterday's Game 7 in the NBA. Steph Curry scored 50 as the Warriors beat the Kings by 20 on the road in Sacramento. Klay Thompson called it the most gratifying win he's been a part of, and Draymond Green added, quote, "You talk about the last dance, so that definitely takes things up a couple of notches," unquote. Wilbon, with the Lakers up next, are you more or less confident in the Warriors winning one more title?
More, Tony. And I'm not going to go crazy yet. I mean, Denver's still out there. Phoenix is still out there. The Celtics are still out there. I'm not going to go nuts about a title yet. But that performance is one of the great things I've ever seen in all of basketball. I mean, I just found myself screaming out loud one shot after another after another. I mean, Steph Curry's 35 years old. We talk about, Brady obviously being the really old man. We talk about LeBron being, closer to 40. Steph Curry's 35 years old. He's better. He's better now. He's stronger. He's ripped. A couple of times at 6'2.5", he knocked Harrison Barnes, who's like 6'8", 230, off his mark to make a move. He goes into the paint now. He scored 22 or 23 points in the paint. He's stronger. He's tougher. He's more reckless. He can sustain more shots. And he makes these wondrous jump shots, as you know. Tony, Magic Johnson is the greatest game in NBA history to me. 42, 15, and 7. I know you were there. This is the first round, not the last round, so you can't put it even. But, Tone, it's in the discussion of anything I have ever seen.
I appreciate that. I do. If the question is, am I more confident in the Lakers right now than before? No, because they're champions. The Warriors, I'm sorry, because they're champions. I don't expect them to go out in the first round. I don't expect them to go out to a team that hasn't been in the playoffs in 100 years. I mean, honestly, I don't. But if you ask me, am I confused by them, I will concede that I am confused by them.
That's fair.
They were the worst road team in the playoffs. They were 11-32 going into Game 5 in Sacramento. They won that game. Then inexplicably to me, lose Game 6 at home. Now they have to go back. They have to win the second time in a row on the road, and they have to win in a Game 7. And they win, and what does that tell me or tell us? Well, among other things, Mike, what it tells me is that they don't care at all about the regular season. They just want to make sure they have a seat at the table in the playoffs. Curry was great. Of course he was great. Curry is great. He's an all-time player, and he is paid to be great. Looney had 21 rebounds, which is great.
Dennis
and I'm going to tell you this.
The new Dennis Rodman.
I'll tell you this, right? It should not be lost on people that Draymond Green started in that game and was out there for a lot of that game, a lot more than Jordan Poole was out there for that game. These are the Warriors as we knew them. These are the champion Warriors that we knew. Those guys.
But you were on the brink. You sounded going into Game 7.
No, I did not think they would win. I did not think they could do that. So the good news for me is I don't have to worry about lighting the beam anymore. I don't have to care about that.
Don't do that. Steph can't do that. Don't you do that. Let me give just a shout out to Sacramento for the effort they made all season in the series. It was great. It was.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's move to another of yesterday's Game 7s and the Boston Bruins, who had the greatest regular season ever in NHL history. And they're now stunningly out of the playoffs. The Florida Panthers tied them in the last minute of regulation, then beat them in OT in Game 7 in Boston. Tony, did the Bruins choke, or is this simply the unpredictable nature of the NHL playoffs?
I don't want to say they choked. That's a very harsh term. But, Mike, it may be inescapable. Okay, they were up 3-1. They lost the series. They lost 2 games at home. They were up 3-2 with a minute to go in the
Meant to
game
play.
7, and they couldn't close it out, Mike. So I mean, I don't know what other word you're supposed to use. I mean, they were not just a garden variety President's Trophy team, that just got to first place close with 4 other teams. No. They had the greatest record ever. They had the most points. They had the most wins ever, and they couldn't close. Mike, if they were the Knicks or the Clippers, we would say they choked. And I don't know how you get around that.
Okay, I'm going to give you a way to get around it. Every team with the greatest record ever in sports didn't win the championship. The Seattle Mariners, they didn't win. The New England Patriots, in terms of most wins, they were undefeated.
Right, going to the playoffs.
They didn't win, right? The Golden State Warriors in 2016, they didn't win. I mean, every sport. And now the Boston Bruins, it's complete now. Boom. We just gave you a set of 4. And Tony,
but
maybe it doesn't eliminate the possibility of choking. It was. When they were down 2-0, I thought they're going to win this game. And they came back and got a power play goal and made it 2-1.
And they were up.
And I was convinced. Yep. And then they lead this game going into the final minute. And it just felt like, wow, the Bruins are going to come back and just be like gangsters and wrestle this away. And they couldn't do it. But Tony, it happened so because of the other teams. I don't know what to make of that. The Bruins are not alone.
Look, I'll go back to the Miami Dolphins because they did close it. Now, the Patriots later won a couple more games, but the Miami Dolphins closed it. In the hockey playoffs, an 8 beats a 1 with more regularity than in any other sport. And we both appreciate that happens. But I'm stunned by this. This is ever, Mike. 100 years of the NHL, this is ever. Now I knew Florida was a tough matchup because they were in this position last year, but I am still very surprised by this. Let's move to the NBA Eastern Conference playoffs where the best players on 2 teams are hurt at the moment. Jimmy Butler for the Heat has a rolled ankle. Joel Embiid for the Sixers has a sprained knee. Well, about whose injury looms larger in the East?
I'm going to say something you're going to find insane. And I know Joel Embiid now, Woj just said he's unlikely to play tonight. That may be the same as doubtful, which means 25% chance. I'm going to say something you're going to consider insane. You know how much I love Embiid. I voted for Embiid for the 2nd straight year as MVP. I think Jimmy Butler, if he has to miss, and I would hold Jimmy Butler out. Because Miami won Game 1 in the world's most famous arena, I would say, Jimmy, you're sitting out Game 2. It gives you a couple of extra days to get ready, and we already got the game we came for in New York. Tony, I think that Philly can actually steal a game from Boston. I know Embiid has not been up to beating the Celtics. I get that. I know you're going to say that. You're right. But I think they got enough other players with Harden and Maxey leading with those guys to give Boston a run in Game 1 tonight. I don't think Miami can do anything without Jimmy Butler.
I'm not even going to argue that. My gut instinct was to say Embiid because I think that Philadelphia it's a crippling thing if they don't have Embiid on that team. I mean, I watched Milwaukee. Antetokounmpo missed a game or 2, and then when he came back, it wasn't enough. I sort of thinking I'm not knocking Jimmy Butler at all because Jimmy Butler is a better playoff player than Joel Embiid. He's an all-time playoff player to this point. 56 in one game, 42 the next night, 98 points in 2 games. Takes his team to the finals a couple of years ago. Embiid's never had more than 40. Embiid never took anybody to the finals. Embiid's not Jimmy Butler, but
that's right.
I just sort of thought you could coach around losing a 6'7" guy a little easier than losing a 7-foot guy. And I also thought this. The Knicks' best player, Julius Randle, missed a game. And the Knicks are not Boston. I mean, Philadelphia's got to play Boston. Boston's better, so that's why I would have said Embiid. Yes.
Tony, and that's perfectly legit. Look, Philly can't beat the Celtics in a series without Embiid playing at least 5 of those games. If he only plays 5, he better be great in all. He better be great in all of them. But I think they could steal a game. That's as far as I'm going. But Jimmy Butler, man, he and Steph Curry and been the star of the playoffs.
These are not promises. Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry have done this.
Yeah.
Other
yeah,
people
they
make promises. Let's see. Let's take a break. Coming up, what was the most intriguing development of NFL draft weekend?
And the Kraken, hate that name, eliminated the defending champion Avalanche.
Wait,
But
I
did
thought
the
you loved the
Oilers or
Kraken.
Maple Leafs do something even bigger? I like
Last
I
week
like
you
the
said you
team.
loved the...
I don't, but I hate
just
the
hate the
name.
name.
I don't like the name.
No. Do you remember
the
when I
Kraken.
told you the Florida Panthers were We get a ton of emails, and some even have correct punctuation. Let me see what's first here today.
He must be 80 years old.
What was the most intriguing development of the NFL draft weekend?
All right, I'm going to equal you by going to the glasses. Tony, I mean, there were a lot. You know, I followed this draft, particularly the first 3 rounds, like I never followed the draft because of the Bears' involvement in the attempt to rebuild. But I'm going to go with Philly, and the Bears were involved in what I'm about to say. The Eagles traded up with the Bears to take Jalen Carter, the game-wrecking Jalen Carter from Georgia. Then took Nolan Smith, the linebacker, terrific linebacker from Georgia. Then Kelly Ringo, the cornerback from Georgia. And then traded with Detroit for a running back, DeAndre, I'm drawing a blank on his last name, from Georgia. Swift from Georgia. So they basically are just having a shuttle from Athens up to Philadelphia. But Jalen Carter, they've got the veteran locker room to help pull that kid together, as opposed to the Bears, who have babies in their locker rooms. And even all the great draft nicks didn't seem to understand that he can fit in Philly much better than he can in Chicago, where they don't have that kind of veteran leadership. So good for the Eagles. They're already good. They could be really, really great.
There are some intriguing things. One was risky. Anthony Richardson going to the Colts. He's an athletic freak. He's 6'4", he's 245, and he runs a 4.43 40. So you want size like that in a quarterback. He's twice as big as the kid that went number 1, but, and it's a big but, he only completed about 54% of his passes at Florida. So that's sort of risky if you hand him the team. But I'll tell you, Mike, the biggest thing in the entire draft weekend was the signing of Lamar Jackson by the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, that is a huge deal. You have him now for 5 more years when he's healthy, and I know he's not always healthy, but when he's healthy, he can be a great player. And I think
that's true.
You want to talk about the Eagles. I think the Eagles had something to do with his signing, because they gave Jalen Hurts a contract with a large guarantee, but not fully guaranteed. And I think when Lamar Jackson saw that, he said, okay, I'm comparable to this. I'll get a little bit more than that, and I'll get off the Deshaun Watson thing about making it fully guaranteed. And I think that was the biggest thing in the weekend. Here we go, another one. What was the bigger deal, the Oilers, Maple Leafs, or Kraken advancing?
Okay, this was easy to me, Tony. It's the Maple Leafs, who go to Tampa. I mean, just a recently dominant team, not a dynasty, but they've been really good. They still are. And the Maple Leafs lose game 1 in their series, and they go 3, 4, and 6 in Tampa. They beat Vasilevsky. Game 6 in Tampa, and they haven't advanced out of the first round since, 2004? The joy in Toronto is just, I've spent a lot of time in Toronto the last few years covering playoff basketball, but still the Maple Leafs are in something for about that much time, and they lose and they go out, and people have been so disappointed, so disheartened. I have a sense of what it means there. Good for them. Toronto, biggest deal. And I mean, Edmonton, I love seeing them win. There were some great results here. Game 7 tonight, by the way, but I'm going Toronto.
There is no city in North America that you don't go to for basketball and care about the other sports that are there. I would love to disagree with you, but I'm not. It is Toronto. And the reason it's Toronto is because they have gagged so many times before.
Yeah.
I believe they lost the first round in the last 6 years. And to win this thing on the road, that's a real big deal. And by the way, with the Bruins out, the Eastern Conference is wide open at the moment. The Oilers beating the Kings is to be expected. First of all, they beat them last year. And second of all, they got the number 1 and number 2 scorers in the league. The Kraken is a big deal because they have just eliminated the defending Stanley Cup champs. So you'd say, well, why isn't that bigger than Toronto? And the answer is because it's their first playoff. They don't have a playoff history to live down. Toronto
No.
has a playoff history to live down. It's
Yeah.
Toronto beating Tampa, a two-time
Yeah.
Stanley Cup team. Enough female.
Yeah, it's like
Let's take
Las
one
Vegas
last break.
winning when they
We're
were
hockey
new.
experts. Still to come, how concerned should the Texas Rangers be about the health of Jacob deGrom? How concerned? How big is this?
Are Tony's Suns going to bounce back tonight in Game 2 against the Nuggets? They better.
I don't know.
Suns have to
I don't
win.
know.
Suns have to win.
I picked them. But the great Patriots wide receiver is now coaching wide receivers for the Dolphins. And he has a great tandem to work with in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who set the NFL record for receiving yards by two teammates last season with 3,066. Plus, the Dolphins have added Robbie Anderson, who had a 1,000-yard season for Carolina in 2020. Welker is one of the great undrafted players ever. He was first-team All-Pro twice, led the NFL in receptions 3 times while in New England. Welker was with the Patriots 6 seasons, led them in receptions each season, holds the franchise record for receptions in one season, 123, and indeed holds the franchise's top 5 one-season reception marks.
You know, Tony, the question with all those receivers and all that coaching is, can Tua be healthy? Can the Dolphins keep Tua upright and healthy? If he is, the Dolphins are not just a threat, but an entertainment wonder to watch them play with those guys.
Big if. It's a big if. Happy anniversary, Manny Machado. On this day 6 years ago, while on the Orioles, Machado hit a home run over the Green Monster and then sashayed around the bases in a deliberate 29-second trot during a heated series with Boston. This season, Machado became the first player ejected for arguing a pitch clock violation. Machado has a new 11-year contract extension with the Padres for $350 million. 4 Padres are making at least $20 million this year. Xander Bogaerts, Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove, and Juan Soto. And Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. are not 2 of them. San Diego has the highest payroll in baseball outside of New York City, just shy of $246 million. Machado currently batting .236, but had 3 homers in his last 3 games.
Yeah, the question about them is, Tony, it's a great show as well. Show, lots of dough, but are they going to be able to win? Are they going to be able to overtake the Dodgers? Now, I'm not so worried about the Diamondbacks, but the Dodgers in their own division.
Happy trails, Jacob deGrom. The Texas Rangers put their ace on the 15-day injured list on Saturday with inflammation of his pitching elbow after early exits in 2 of deGrom's last 3 starts. deGrom, a 2-time Cy Young winner for the Mets, signed a 5-year, $185 million deal with Texas in the offseason and has said, quote, the goal was to make 30-plus starts, unquote. The concern with deGrom is the same as with Steven Strasburg. Can he get out there and pitch? deGrom has 6 starts for the Rangers so far, and the team has won them all. But he only has 30 1/3 innings, though 45 strikeouts. His last 2 years with the Mets, deGrom pitched just 156 innings.
Those uniforms Texas has now are the ugliest things worn in Major League Baseball since the White Sox in their hot pants in the mid-1970s. They're a disgrace. deGrom, I was surprised to find out, Tony, he's made 30 starts 4 times in his career. I didn't think he'd done that because, you know, that's not done anymore. The greats from previous decades would go 37, 38 starts, if not more. So 30, I guess, is a pretty big deal, more durable than I thought.
He's got 2 Cy Youngs. And people will say, if you've got 2 Cy Youngs, you should be in the Hall of Fame. He's only won like 85 games, something near there. Yeah. He's only pitched 1,300 innings. 1,300 innings. If you're a Hall of Fame voter, you go, well, where's the career? This is the same thing with Strasburg.
Not these voters anymore. Not these voters anymore. They're 30 years old and they buy into every stupid metric there is instead of saying, did he win the games? Did he go out there every whatever it is now, 5th or 6th day, and did he win the games over a long period of time? They forget that because they got some stupid metric they'd rather rely on.
And on that note, we go to the big finish. Suns at Nuggets game 2 tonight. Will our Suns bounce back?
They better. They don't want to go down 0-2. Denver looks like the better team. They got to have some answers. They got great players. Time to have some answers tonight. Bryce Harper's expected to return from Tommy John surgery tomorrow against the Dodgers. Is that significant?
He's back much quicker than most people thought. He will DH. Look, he's a 2-time MVP. You want him if you can. The White Sox, your White Sox, snapped their 10-game losing streak. You excited?
They're dreadful. The White Sox are dreadful, and they can't blame Tony La Russa. He ain't there anymore. Tony Finau topped John Rahm at the Mexico Open. You impressed?
Oh, you beat John Rahm, you've beaten the best there is. I know they're best friends, and they live in Scottsdale, one of your places where you have 8 homes. So good for Finau. Last one, Rangers at Devils, Game 7 tonight. Who you got? Who you got?
One home. Well, I'm going to sit and watch Game 7. The series has no rhyme or reason. I don't know. I'm going to go push.
Push. That's great. Not in the playoffs. We're out of time. Try and do better the next time. Maureen Dowd, great column on Newsrooms. Shout out.
You're Mr. New York. You pick. I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcast. Okay, the Rangers win in New Jersey.
Good.